So I was watching a TikTok video, and the girl was American, and she was asking people in other countries, when did, like, what's going on in America, like, cross the line between, like, okay, it's not funny anymore what's happening to them, like, I'm worried for you guys. Like, when was that moment? And one of the comment responses was that America is like the Florida of the rest of the world. And immediately I was like, oh no. Oh no. So here's a question that I don't know if I've ever considered before. But, okay, so the characters in Scooby-Doo, how did they all meet? How did this group of people come to solve mysteries together? I'm not sure how they knew each other. And how it was decided that, like, this is what they do now. Who has thoughts? And continuing on this, whose idea was it to, like, buy a van that they all agreed to just travel around in? And how far do they travel? Because it seems like, I mean, is this like they're traveling the country? Because how many, masked villains are like in one state, Whose idea was this? Which of them, once they had met, decided, hey guys, I think this should be our thing. And then the others just agreed to it. How did this happen? What else had happened in their lives previously that led them to becoming the Scooby-Doo gang? And why was it that Shaggy, like, needed to bring his dog with? How was that negotiated? So last night I had a question about Scooby-Doo, but tonight I have a question about Harry Potter. I have a lot of questions about Harry Potter, but tonight's question is, where do they get the food? They're feeding hundreds of students 3 times a day. Where does this food come from? Because there's no garden on the Hogwarts grounds. And then I was like, is there a wizarding grocery store? Like, does Hogsmeade have a grocery store? It's never mentioned, but it's not like a student on their Hogsmeade weekend is going to go to the grocery store. Like, that doesn't make sense. They have no need to. But then I'm like, okay, so is it a Muggle grocery store? But then I'm like, how does that work? Because you're not going to have a house elf go to where would even, how far away is the closest Muggle town? Which is not even going to deliver to the magic school. But then my next thought was that, okay, obviously, like, our, like, regular schools that don't order from, like, the Jewel or whatever, so they get it from, like, food service supply companies. I don't know how that works. I don't do that, but it's not like from a grocery store. So they order the food from somewhere, but it still has to be delivered to Hogwarts. But I have never heard of anything being delivered to Hogwarts. But it must be. But, like, that's a ton of food. You'd need, like, a truck to transport it. There's no driveway. There's no loading dock. There could be. I mean, I don't think we ever... Does anyone ever go to the kitchens? It's possible. But where does this food come from? How does it get there? I've had an idea, but I don't think it'll work. Because my idea was, what if they order through, like, some sort of magical food service where, like, the food just, like, shows up, like, in packages, like, on a table set out in the kitchen. It'll just appear there. But then I'm like, can you apparate an object, like, by itself? 1, I don't think you can. And 2, you can't apparate in and out of Hogwarts. But does that only apply to people? Because I think house elves can do it. Would you have to have a port key involved? How does that work? Don't you need a person to activate a port key? Can a person activate a port key without it also taking them along? Or maybe there is a delivery person who just operates themselves with all of the packages of food. How do large deliveries work in the Wizarding World? An owl, even two owls, cannot carry large deliveries. When talking about cozy mysteries as a genre, there are three things that you need to know. One, they're set in a small town. Two, the main character is not a police officer. Three, they usually own some sort of quaint shop, like a bookstore or a bakery, and then somehow just involve themselves in solving the abnormally high murder rate in this very small town. There's usually also like a sprinkling of romance in this genre, which is usually between the main character and then the detective guy who's investigating the murder. But in this series, the main cop that she's interacting with is a woman. So I was like, oh, they're gonna be girlfriends, because like they talk just these long conversations and like, oh, we should take the boat out on the lake. Let's go horseback riding, like heavy flirting. Which like if written the exact same way with a male character would definitely be set up as a romance. But I was like 99% sure that this was just gonna end up be Galesby and Pales. And that's sort of where it ended. But this is book 2 of I don't know how many books. So fingers crossed for girlfriends. So a few days ago, I posted about how I had just finished book 2 of a cozy mystery series, and on how it's a very common trope in that genre for there to be a romance between the main character and the officer or detective who they are solving murders with. And in the book I had just finished, the main officer that the main character is interacting with is a woman. So I was like, so they're going to be girlfriends. And not just based on that trope, based on the book. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be Galesby and Pales, but it should be girlfriends. I'm most of the way through book 3, so I have an update. So in book 3, someone is trying to kill the main character. They have made multiple attempts on her life. So her lady cop friend is like, well, I guess this means I have to move in with you to keep you safe. And I'm like, does it? And so because someone has made multiple attempts on her life and she is about to inherit $3 million, her lawyer is like, you need to make a will. So she makes a will, leaving half of her millions to this woman. And they have known each other less than a year, like 6 months maybe, from what I can tell. Half of her millions to her girlfriend. Girlfriends, come on. I'm now up to book 4 in the Cozy Mystery series that I'm reading, which means I have yet another update in the Will They or Won't They Girlfriends or Gale Pals saga. Book number 4. They're going on a retreat together, sharing a hotel room with one bed. Will they or won't they? Girlfriends or Gale Pals?